This is John Sanpetro, and today we're going to look at what to consider when purchasing a new desktop computer. First of all, let's talk about when you want to buy a new computer. When your computing needs have changed, in other words, if you purchased your computer with certain tasks in mind and now you're doing other tasks that the computer really wasn't set up for, that might be a time to purchase a new computer. You'll also find in a situation like that your computer is costing you time instead of saving you time. You'll see this often as computers get older. They tend to get bogged down as well, and if you spend a good part of your day just sitting around waiting for your computer to catch up with what you're doing, that's another good sign that it might be time for a new computer. Also, when it makes financial sense. This is not a minor purchase for your business. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you're budgeted for a computer. Also, as we get toward the end of any calendar year, a lot of people, a lot of business owners do like to make their big purchases at this time, because if they're showing a profit, if they're going to take a big tax hit, they can make a purchase now instead of, say, 2 or 3 months from now in the new year, and they can reap the tax benefits from that. Once you've decided to buy a new computer, there are some considerations. Number one, do you want a Mac or a PC? Now, the majority of the world still uses PCs, and so I'm going to go forward assuming that you want a PC as well. What operating system do you want to use? The majority of computers nowadays are set up with Windows 7. So far, all reports are that Windows 7 is an excellent operating system, that Windows has finally gotten it right, and so Windows 7 is probably the way that you want to go. And again, cost is always a consideration. How much do you realistically want to spend? Always try to stay within your price range, and there are always ways to do that. So now that you've gotten those considerations taken care of, what exactly are you going to look for? The first thing you'll look for is the processor. And generally speaking, there are two brands of processors, Intel and AMD. You really can't go wrong with either one of these brands. More important is the processor speed. That's just how quickly the computer is going to process tasks for you, and you'll find that is measured in a gigahertz measurement. So the higher the gigahertz number, or GHz number, the better. What you're really going to look for are the number of cores, and you'll see it'll say core, dual core, quad core, etc. Generally, the more cores a processor has, the better that processor is going to be. So top of the line right now would be quad core. Once you've made your processor choice, the next thing you want to look at is the system memory. This is also known as the RAM. And the RAM is probably the most important decision you're going to make, because oftentimes the amount of system memory is going to make or break a computer. It's going to really determine how long you're going to get, how long a lifespan the computer is going to have. And so this is where generally I recommend that you overbuy. Buy more than you need now. Also, you want to make sure that it's expandable. For example, top-of-the-line computers right now generally will have something along the lines of 8 gigabytes of RAM, expandable to 16 gigabytes. Most computers right now are averaging around 4 gigabytes. But again, if you can buy more, then this is where you generally want to overbuy. The next thing to look at is the size of your hard drive, and this is just how much memory, how much disk space the computer has for you to store stuff on. And I've seen numbers now all the way up to 1 terabyte, or TB, which is 1,000 gigabytes. Again, more is better because it gives you more storage space, but really, how much is enough? This is where you can, if you have to make some of those compromises, you can go down from, say, 750 gigabytes to 640, or 640 to 500, or 500 to 320. It's okay because this is easy to expand. The graphics card and video memory are your next consideration, and they're a fairly important consideration considering that you're doing a lot of video tutorials nowadays, considering that you're getting into digital scrapbooking. So this is one of those places where you want to spend a little bit of time. When you're looking at the graphics card, you'll find that computer makers usually cut corners here. And they'll put a relatively inferior graphics card into the computer relative to the rest of the specs of the computer. So I would say look for a mid-range card. Now, the video memory is another area that gets overlooked very often, because this is how much of the system memory or the RAM the computer is giving to video. And so you want to look for dedicated memory rather than shared memory. Because if the computer is dedicating a certain amount of memory to your video graphics, that is going to be better in terms of processing speed, in terms of things not getting jerky, in terms of your computer not bogging down. The more megabytes in this number, the better. So you'll often see 256 megabytes or 512 megabytes. Obviously, the higher that number, the better you want to be. And of course, always look to make sure that that video memory is expandable. Media. Very simple, very straightforward. This is what you want. Very simple. You don't want to settle for anything less. Okay, those are the major considerations. But then we have a long list of other considerations, and I'll just run through them. Wireless networking. We're all about wireless networking now. A lot of desktops are actually building in wireless networking. That might be something you want to consider. If it's in there, great. If it's not, there are a lot of workarounds. A network card is also something that you'll find is generally built in to all computers now. You're looking for an Ethernet card, they call it. You'll basically find that everywhere. A digital card reader is actually very important because a lot of you are uploading video and photos now, and it's a lot easier if you could just pop the card out of your camera and just pop it into the computer. But again, this comes pretty much standard on most computers nowadays. Expansion slots are very important because if you do want to expand the RAM of your computer, if you do want to expand the video memory of your computer, you need these slots to basically do that. USB ports, you can't have enough of those. You plug so many different things into your computer, your mouse, your keyboard, your scanner, your printer, blah, blah, blah. You can't have too many, and you do want USB 2.0, which transfers data back and forth a lot faster. It's also always good to have a FireWire port, or what's called the 1394 port. The reason is that most video requires, if you're doing a video transfer from a camera that uses an actual tape rather than a card, you'll generally need that FireWire port to do it. So look for a computer with at least one FireWire port. Of course, you want to think about the software that's included. That's always a consideration. And the warranty. The more you can get out of the warranty, the better. Most computers nowadays come with a 1-year limited parts and labor warranty. So, a couple of final thoughts. Number one, if you can get into the store, into any store, to try out various configurations to get a feel for each computer, you definitely should. You absolutely should. Go play with the computer, see what works for you. You might find a setup that you like a little bit better. You might figure out something you didn't realize before. You generally can't figure out everything online. If you can get there and play with it, do it. Know your priorities when you go in. Know exactly what you want to do with your computer and what you really don't want to sacrifice, and then be prepared to make some compromises on some other features in order to get the priorities in that computer also fitting into your price range. And listen, if all else fails, there are lots of sites like Newegg.com where you can always go online and you can build your own computer to the exact specifications that you want to build to. It will cost you a little bit more. There's a little bit of a premium that you pay, but if you're hardcore and you're not finding what you want out there, go and build your own. It doesn't take very long and you get exactly what you want. Thanks for watching. If you'd like more information, please feel free to visit any of the sites listed above, or just subscribe to this YouTube channel for notification of our next video.